Abandoned. The pregnant mother bought a pilot's mansion for $10. What she found
Derek's
astonished
hand
her.
cracked across Clara's face. She stumbled backward, hitting the kitchen counter, her 8-month pregnant belly pressed against the cold granite. "You're pathetic," Derek spat. "Look at you. Fat, useless. I wasted 8 years on you." Clara tasted blood. Her lip was split. "Derek the baby." "That thing isn't mine." He grabbed his suitcase from the hallway. "I'm done. Rachel's waiting for me. She's everything you're not." "Please." Clara reached for him. "I have nothing. Where will I go?" Derek laughed. It was the cruelest sound she had ever heard. "Not my problem anymore. I cleaned out the accounts this morning. Every single penny. Consider it payment for 8 years of disappointment." The door slammed so hard the windows rattled. Clara slid down the cabinet to the floor. Blood dripped from her lip onto her shirt. The baby kicked frantically, sensing her terror. "It's okay," she whispered through tears. "Mama's okay." But she wasn't okay. She had $47 in her wallet, a baby coming in 4 weeks, and a husband who had just erased her entire existence. 3 weeks later, Clara Morrison would spend her last $10 on a crumbling mansion with a crashed airplane in the front yard. Inside those walls, she would discover letters from a dead man to a daughter he never met, a secret that had been buried for 50 years, and a truth that would change everything she believed about love loss and the power of never giving up. Before we continue, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and follow Clara's incredible journey to the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels across the world. Clara pressed a frozen bag of peas against her swollen lip and stared at the eviction notice on the kitchen table. 3 days. She had 3 days to vacate the apartment Derek had rented under his name only. Another trap she hadn't seen coming. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Michelle. "Mom told me what happened. You should have listened to us about Derek. Don't call me. I have my own problems," Clara typed back with shaking fingers. "I'm pregnant. I have nowhere to go. Please." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No response came. She called her mother. It rang 6 times before the familiar cold voice answered. "What is it, Clara?" "Mom, I need help. Derek left. He took everything. I'm 8 months pregnant and I have 3 days to find somewhere to live." "I heard." Her mother's voice carried no sympathy. "Michelle called me this morning." "Then you know I'm desperate. Mom, please, just let me stay in the guest room until the baby comes. A few weeks. That's all I'm asking." Silence stretched across the line. Clara could hear her mother's grandfather clock ticking in the background. That clock had counted down every failure of Clara's life. Every disappointment, every "I told you so." "Your father and I discussed it." Hope flickered in Clara's chest. "And we've decided that helping you now would only enable more poor decisions. You married that man against our advice. You dropped out of college for him. You gave up your career for him. Every choice you've made for the past 8 years has been wrong, Clara. At some point, you need to face the consequences." "Mom, I'm your daughter. I'm carrying your grandchild." "A grandchild we told you not to have with a man we told you not to marry." Her mother's voice hardened. "I'm sorry, Clara. You made your bed." "Mom, goodbye." The line went dead. Clara stared at the phone. The screen showed the call duration. 2 minutes and 18 seconds. That's how long it took for her mother to abandon her. The baby kicked hard against her ribs. "I know," Clara whispered. "I know. We're on our own now." She spent the next 2 days selling everything she could. The furniture Derek had left behind because it wasn't nice enough for his new life with Rachel. The kitchen appliances. The television. Even her wedding ring, which the pawn shop owner said was fake. Cubic zirconia. Derek had lied about that too. When she finished, she had $612. Not enough for first and last month's rent anywhere. Not enough for a hotel for more than a week. Not enough for anything. The women's shelter in downtown Asheville had a waiting list. 17 names ahead of hers. The intake coordinator, a tired woman named Barbara, looked at Clara's pregnant belly with sad eyes. "I'm sorry, honey, we're completely full. Budget cuts last year eliminated half our beds." "What am I supposed to do?" Barbara handed her a list of resources. Food banks, churches that offered meals, a number for emergency assistance that Clara had already called 3 times with no answer. "There's a motel on Route 70, Barbara said quietly. "The owner, Mrs. Chen, she sometimes gives reduced rates for women in situations like yours. Tell her I sent you." Clara drove to the motel in her old Honda Civic. The check engine light had been on for 6 months. The air conditioning had stopped working in July. The passenger window was stuck permanently down 3 inches, letting in rain and cold air. Mrs. Chen was a small woman in her 70s with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. How far along? She asked, looking at Clara's belly. 8 months? Father. Gone? Mrs. Chen nodded slowly. $20 a night? No drugs, no loud noise, no trouble. Checkout is 11. You can stay as long as you pay. Clara did the math. 30 nights at $20. That was everything she had. Thank you, she said. Thank you so much. Mrs. Chen waved her hand dismissively. Don't thank me yet. The room is small and the walls are thin, but the bed is clean and the door locks. Clara moved into room 7 that afternoon. It was exactly as Mrs. Chen described. Small, thin walls, but clean. Safe. She lay on the bed with her hands on her belly and tried to make a plan. She needed a job, but who would hire a woman about to give birth? She needed a place to live, but she couldn't afford deposits and first month's rent. She needed help, but everyone who was supposed to help her had slammed their doors. The baby shifted, pressing against her bladder. Clara got up and used the tiny bathroom, then sat on the edge of the bed staring at her phone. She scrolled through job listings. Nothing. Social services, wait lists everywhere, housing assistance, applications that would take months to process. At 9:30 that night, she found herself on a foreclosure auction website. She didn't remember how she got there. Some rabbit hole of desperate clicking following links that promised cheap housing, affordable options, new beginnings. Most properties were far beyond her reach. 50,000, 80,000. Numbers that might as well have been millions. Then she saw it. Historic Victorian estate. Blue Ridge Mountains, North Carolina. 3.5 acres. Outbuildings. Personal property included. No inspections. No guarantees. Minimum bid $10. Clara clicked on the listing. The photos loaded slowly on the motel's weak Wi-Fi. The house looked abandoned. Not just empty, but forgotten by time itself. The roof sagged in the middle. Windows were broken and covered with plastic. The porch had collapsed on one end, but it was the last photo that made her heart stop. A plane. A small propeller airplane sitting in the overgrown front yard like it had fallen from the sky decades ago, and no one had ever bothered to move it. Clara stared at that plane for a long time. She read the listing again. Personal property included. Whatever was inside the house came with the purchase. Furniture, belongings, everything left behind. The bid counter showed 0. No one wanted this house. Clara looked around her tiny motel room. In 3 weeks, her money would run out. In 4 weeks, her baby would come. She had no job, no family, no options. What did she have to lose? Her finger hovered over the bid button. This is crazy, she said out loud. The baby kicked. I know it's crazy, but crazy is all we've got. She pressed the button. Place bid, $10. The confirmation screen glowed back at her. Congratulations, you are the current highest bidder. 3 days later, her phone buzzed with an email. Auction complete. You have won property ID 47821. Historic Victorian estate. Final bid $1,000. Clara read the email 4 times. Then she started laughing. Then she started crying. Then she packed her single suitcase, paid Mrs. Chen for the remaining nights she wouldn't use, and drove north into the mountains. The GPS lost signal 40 minutes outside Asheville. Clara followed the printed directions she'd gotten at the library, turning onto roads that grew narrower with each mile. The trees closed in around her, blocking out the gray November sky. Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Derek. She answered without thinking. What do you want? Clara. His voice was different. Softer. Clara, I need to talk to you. You said everything you needed to say when you hit me. I know, I was wrong. Rachel and I, we had a fight, and I've been thinking. No. Clara, please, just listen. You cleaned out our accounts. You left me with nothing. I'm 8 months pregnant, and you threw me away like garbage. There is nothing you can say that I want to hear. Where are you? You're not at the apartment. I drove by. Clara's blood went cold. Why were you at the apartment? I wanted to talk, to apologize. Where are you, Clara? None of your business? You're my wife. I'm your ex-wife, or I will be as soon as I can afford a lawyer. Clara? She hung up and turned off her phone. Her hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Derek had gone to the apartment. Derek was looking for her. She didn't know why, and she didn't care. Whatever he wanted, it wasn't because he loved her. It was because he needed something. It was always because he needed something. The Honda's engine made a concerning grinding noise as the road climbed higher. Clara gripped the wheel and prayed. come on. Just a little further, please." The engine coughed, sputtered, then steadied. "Thank you, thank you." The mailbox appeared 20 minutes later. Rusted leaning at an angle, the name painted over but still visible beneath the weathered surface. Hartley, Hartley. Clara turned onto the gravel driveway. The trees swallowed her car whole. When the house emerged from the forest, she stopped the car and stared. The photos had not prepared her. The mansion rose from the overgrown yard like a wounded giant refusing to fall. Every window was dark. The porch looked ready to collapse. Vines crawled up the walls, reaching for the broken roof. And there was the plane. The Cessna from the listing. Its silver paint faded to gray propeller, frozen wheels sunk into the earth. Even abandoned, there was something proud about it. Something that refused to stop existing. Clara turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and complete. No traffic, no voices, no sounds of civilization at all. She was alone. Completely alone. "Well?" she said to her belly. "We're home." The baby kicked in response. Clara got out of the car slowly, one hand supporting her back. The November air was cold and smelled like pine and rain and something older, something that had been waiting. She climbed the porch steps, carefully testing each one. The third step cracked under her weight, but held. The front door was solid oak, weathered but intact. She fumbled with the ring of keys the auction company had sent. 15 keys on a brass ring, each one labeled with faded ink tags. Front door, study, cellar, master bedroom. The front door key stuck in the lock. Clara jiggled it, pushed harder, and felt something give. The lock clicked. The door swung open. The smell hit her first. Dust and age and something sweet, like old paper and dried flowers. She stepped inside. The foyer was dark except for thin streams of light pushing through cracks in the boarded windows. Sheet-covered furniture created ghostly shapes in the shadows. A chandelier hung crooked over head crystals thick with decades of cobwebs. "Hello?" Clara called out. Her voice echoed back from the empty rooms. She walked forward slowly, her footsteps loud against floors that hadn't felt weight in years. The sitting room held more sheet-covered furniture and an upright piano with one cracked key. Clara lifted a sheet and found an antique sofa, the fabric faded but intact. The dining room stopped her cold. The table was set for dinner. 8 places. Plates, silverware, napkins folded into careful triangles. Wine glasses waiting to be filled. As if the owner had expected guests and they simply never arrived. "What happened here?" Clara whispered. The house didn't answer. The kitchen was a time capsule. Canned goods on shelves, labels faded but readable. A coffee mug in the sink with a dried ring at the bottom. A calendar on the wall frozen on March 2019. March 2019, 5 years ago. Someone had been here 5 years ago, made coffee, checked the calendar, and then vanished. Clara's phone buzzed. She had 1 bar of signal, a text from an unknown number. "I know you bought the Hartley property. We need to talk." Clara stared at the message. Her heart pounded. "Who is this?" she typed back. No response. She shoved the phone in her pocket and kept moving. At the end of the main hallway, she found a door different from the others. Heavier. A brass plate mounted on the wood read Study, W. Hartley. Clara touched the nameplate. The metal was cold under her fingers. She found the key marked Study and slid it into the lock. It turned smoothly as if it had been waiting. The door swung open. Clara stood frozen in the doorway. Books covered every wall. Hundreds of them. Aviation manuals, atlases, leather-bound journals, maps folded and rolled and stacked in every corner. A massive wooden desk dominated the room, covered with papers and notebooks and a pair of wire-rimmed glasses. Behind the desk, between 2 faded American flags, hung a photograph of a man in an Air Force uniform. He stood next to a small plane, the same Cessna, rusting in the yard below. He was smiling, confident, the kind of man who knew exactly who he was and what he was meant to do. A small plaque beneath the photo read Captain William Hartley, 143, Humanitarian Missions, 1971-1992, Never Stop Searching. "Never stop searching," Clara read aloud. Searching for what? She walked around the desk, running her fingers along its surface. The wood was smooth from decades of use. She could imagine him here, working late, writing, planning. Her hand brushed a drawer. Locked. She found the key on the ring. Desk. It slid into the lock and turned with a soft click. Inside were 3 things. A thick leather folder, a bundle of yellowing envelopes tied with string, and something wrapped in dark cloth. Clara lifted the bundle of letters first. Her breath caught when she read the name on the top envelope. To Emma. "If I never find you." Her hands trembled as she untied the string. She pulled out the first letter and unfolded it carefully. June 14th, 1982. My dearest and dearest Emma, you were born on March 14th, 1968. You are 14 years old today, wherever you are. I think about you every single day. I never met you. I never held you. The courts made sure of that. Your mother signed the papers while I was deployed overseas. By the time I came home, you were gone. Adopted through an agency called Golden Cradle Services. They refused to tell me anything. I've been searching for you ever since. I will never stop. Your father, William? Clara's eyes burned with tears. She grabbed another letter. March 14th, 1990. Emma, you are 22 today, a woman. Maybe you're married. Maybe you have children of your own. Maybe you're happy. I pray you're happy. I flew over 3 countries this month delivering medical supplies. Every young woman I saw, I wondered if she was you. Every face, every laugh, every pair of eyes. I'm starting to forget what you might look like, but I will never forget that you exist. I will never stop looking. Your father. William. Clara grabbed another, and another, and another. January 3rd, 1998, they told me today that Golden Cradle Services was shut down in 1982. Fraud, document tampering, criminal charges. The records were sealed or destroyed. Another door slammed in my face. Another dead end. But I won't stop, Emma. I will never stop. September 22nd, 2005. I'm 68 years old. My knees ache. My eyes aren't what they used to be. The doctors say my heart is weakening. But it still beats for you, Emma. Every beat is a prayer that somehow, somewhere you know you were wanted. December 1st, 2018. I found something today. A name. An address. After 50 years, I found you. Emma Grace Dawson. Santa Fe, New Mexico. I don't know if it's really you. I don't know if you want to be found. But I know now. I know where you are. And I can't go to you. I'm 81 years old, Emma. I have months to live, maybe weeks. What right do I have to show up now to disrupt your life, to tell you that your father spent half a century searching for you? Would that bring you peace or pain? I don't know anymore. I don't know anything anymore. Clara set the letters down. Tears streamed down her face. This man, this pilot, he had spent his entire life searching for a daughter who was taken from him. He had written letters she would never read. He had flown across the world hoping to find her face. And in the end, when he finally discovered where she was, he couldn't bring himself to go to her. She reached for the cloth-wrapped object, unfolded it carefully, an old tape recorder, reel-to-reel dusty but intact. A label on the mounted tape read Final Message, 2019. Clara's heart pounded. She searched for an outlet, found one behind the desk, and plugged in the machine. It hummed to life. She pressed play. Static crackled, then a cough, then a voice rough and tired but steady. If you're hearing this, it means I never found her. Clara stopped breathing. My name is Captain William Hartley, United States Air Force. I flew 143 humanitarian missions between 1971 and 1992. I evacuated refugees. I delivered medical supplies to war zones. I transported orphans to safety. People called me a hero. A long pause, heavy breathing. I wasn't a hero. I was a father looking for his daughter. Every mission, every flight, every country I landed in, I was searching, always searching, for Emma. Clara pressed her hand to her mouth. She was born March 14th, 1968. 6 weeks later? While I was deployed in Vietnam, her mother Sarah signed adoption papers. I didn't know, I didn't consent. I came home to an empty apartment and a note that said, "It's better this way." William's voice cracked. I spent the next 50 years trying to find her. Golden Cradle Services. That was the agency. They specialized in fast private adoptions. No questions asked. No father's rights considered. I hired lawyers. I filed petitions. I begged judges. They told me the records were sealed. They told me to move on. They told me my daughter was better off without me. Clara heard him take a shaky breath. I never believed that. I never stopped believing she needed to know that her father loved her, that her father wanted her, that her father would have done anything to hold her just once. The tape crackled. When William spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Last month, I received a letter from a law firm in Denver. They found a match. Emma Grace Dawson, born March 14th, 1968, currently living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Clara's heart stopped. I know where she is. After 50 years, I know, and I can't go to her. Why? Clara whispered to the empty room. Why couldn't you go? As if he heard her, William continued. I'm dying. My heart is failing. The doctors give me 3 months, maybe less. What right do I have to show up now to tell a 50-year-old woman that her dying father finally found her? What would that give her except grief? Clara's tears fell onto the desk. But someone needs to know. Someone needs to finish what I couldn't. If you're hearing this, you bought my house. You found my study. Maybe you were looking for something too. Maybe we're not so different. Clara thought about her own life. The husband who abandoned her. The family who rejected her. The baby growing inside her with no father, no grandmother, no one but her. I'm leaving everything here. The maps, the letters, the records of every lead I ever followed. Maybe you'll see something I missed. Maybe you'll be the one who finally reaches her. William coughed hard. The tape crackled. Tell Emma something for me. Tell her that her father loved her from the moment he knew she existed. Tell her that she was never forgotten. Tell her that if love could cross time and distance and death itself, mine would find her. It would always find her. A long silence. My name is William Hartley. I spent 50 years searching for my daughter. I failed, but maybe you won't. Maybe you're the one who was meant to find her all along. The tape clicked. The reel stopped spinning. Clara sat motionless in the leather chair, tears running down her cheeks. I'll find her, she said to the photograph on the wall. I promise you, I'll find her. She opened the leather folder. Inside were documents, newspaper clippings, maps with red circles, notes in William's careful handwriting. One envelope fell out, different from the others. Newer, cleaner. A return address from a law firm in Denver. Clara opened it and read, Dear Captain Hartley, we have reviewed your inquiry regarding sealed adoption records from Golden Cradle Services. While we cannot release confidential information, we have discovered a potential match based on the birth date and location you provided. A woman named Emma Grace Dawson, born March 14, 1968 in Denver, Colorado, currently resides in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We cannot confirm this is your daughter, but the circumstances are consistent with your search. We recommend proceeding with caution. Many adoptees have no desire to reconnect with birth parents. The address is enclosed. Clara's hands shook. Emma Grace Dawson. Santa Fe, New Mexico. She had a name. She had a location. She had everything William had spent 50 years trying to find. The baby kicked hard. I know, Clara whispered. I know what we have to do. She gathered the letters, the maps, the folder of documents. She would read everything. She would follow every lead. She would finish what William Hartley started. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. You have no idea what you found. That house has secrets the old man took to his grave. Be careful who you trust. Clara stared at the message. Who are you? She typed. The response came immediately. Someone who's been watching that house for a very long time. We need to meet. Tomorrow. Asheville Public Library. 2 p.m. Come alone. Clara's blood went cold. Someone had been watching the house. Someone knew she was here. Someone had secrets about William Hartley that went beyond letters and tapes. She looked around the study, the books, the maps, the photograph of a man who spent his life searching for a daughter he never found. What else had William Hartley buried in these walls? Her phone buzzed one more time. Don't ignore this. Clara, your life might depend on it. Clara pressed her hand to her belly. The baby was still, waiting. She looked at William's photograph one last time. His eyes seemed to be watching her, warning her. What did you get yourself into? She whispered to the dead pilot. The house creaked around her. Wind howled through the broken windows. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the study, Clara heard a sound that made her blood freeze. Footsteps. Someone else was in the house. Clara's breath stopped. The footsteps were real. Heavy. Deliberate. Moving through the hallway toward the study. She grabbed the first thing she could find, a heavy brass paperweight from William's desk, and pressed herself against the wall beside the door. The footsteps stopped just outside. Clara's heart pounded so hard she was sure whoever was out there could hear it. The door creaked open slowly. A flashlight beam swept across the room, landing on the desk. The scattered letters, the tape recorder still connected to the wall. I know you're in here, a woman's voice called out. I saw your car outside. Clara didn't move. Didn't breathe. I'm not here to hurt you. My name is Hazel Thompson. I was William Hartley's friend. Clara's grip tightened on the paperweight. How do I know that's true? Because I'm the one who sent you those texts. Clara stepped out from behind the door, paperweight still raised. The flashlight swung toward her, then lowered. The woman holding it was in her late 60s, silver hair pulled back in a messy braid, wearing a heavy coat and mud-caked boots. Her face was lined, but kind, her eyes sharp and watchful. You can put that down, Hazel said, nodding at the paperweight. I'm 67 years old with bad knees. You could outrun me even pregnant. Clara didn't lower her weapon. You've been watching this house. Why, Baum? Because William asked me to. Before he died, he made me promise to keep an eye on the place, to wait for whoever bought it. Hazel's voice softened. He believed someone would come. Someone who needed to find what he left behind. Why didn't you buy it yourself? Because I'm not the one meant to finish his story. Hazel took a step closer. But I think you might be. Clara studied the woman's face, searching for deception. She found none. How did you know I was here tonight? Motion sensors. William installed them years ago. When someone enters the property, I get an alert. Hazel glanced around the study. I see you found his letters. Clara finally lowered the paperweight. I found more than that. More than crumbling. I found where his daughter is. Hazel's expression flickered. Something between hope and fear. You found Emma. William found her. A law firm in Denver sent him an address. Santa Fe, New Mexico, Emma Grace Dawson. Hazel closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. He knew. He finally knew. And he still couldn't go to her. Why not? His tape said he was dying. But there's more to it, isn't there? Hazel walked to the desk and touched the scattered letters with gentle fingers. There's so much more, Clara. William Hartley wasn't just a humanitarian pilot. He stumbled onto something during his missions. Something that got people killed. Clara felt the temperature in the room drop. What are you talking about? Not here, not tonight. Hazel looked toward the dark windows. This house isn't safe after dark. There are people who've been waiting for William's secrets to surface. People who don't want Emma found. What people? Come to the library tomorrow. 2 o'clock, like my text said. I'll explain everything. Hazel moved toward the door. Bring the letters. Bring all of it. And Clara. What? Don't trust anyone else who shows up asking questions. William had enemies. Some of them are still alive. Hazel disappeared into the darkness. A moment later, Clara heard a car engine start somewhere down the mountain. She stood alone in the study, surrounded by William's secrets, her hand pressed against her belly, where the baby had gone still. What had she gotten herself into? The next morning, Clara woke to gray light filtering through the cracked windows of the master bedroom. She had slept in William's bed, wrapped in musty blankets, jumping at every creak and groan of the old house. Her phone showed 7:43 a.m., 6 hours until she was supposed to meet Hazel. She spent the morning reading more of William's letters. Each one broke her heart in new ways. A letter from 1975 described his first attempt to hire a private investigator. The man took his money and disappeared. A letter from 1983 documented a trip to Denver where William had confronted the former director of Golden Cradle Services. The man called the police and had William removed from the premises. A letter from 1991 described a woman who claimed to be Emma. William flew to meet her in Chicago, his heart full of hope. She was a con artist looking for money. He gave her everything in his wallet anyway, just in case. Clara wiped her eyes and kept reading. A letter from 2003 mentioned someone named Margaret Cole, William's co-pilot's wife. She knew things, the letter said. Things about the missions that went wrong. Clara made a mental note of the name. At noon, she ate crackers and peanut butter from her car, the only food she had brought. The baby kicked constantly, restless and uncomfortable. I know, Clara said, rubbing her belly. I know. We need real food. We need a real plan. We need a lot of things. She drove down the mountain at 1 o'clock, giving herself extra time in case the Honda decided to die. The car made it to Asheville without incident, though the check engine light flickered ominously the whole way. The public library was a beautiful old building, with tall windows and stone columns. Clara parked in the lot and sat for a moment, gathering her courage. She had brought everything. The letters, the tape, the law firm's envelope, the leather folder full of documents. Everything William had left behind. Inside the library smelled like every library Clara had ever known. Paper and dust and quiet possibility. She found Hazel waiting at a table in the back corner near the local history section. You came? Hazel said, sounding relieved. Did you think I wouldn't? I thought you might run. Most people would after what you found. Clara sat down across from her and placed the folder on the table. I'm not most people, and I'm too broke to run anywhere. Hazel almost smiled. William would have liked you. Tell me what you know? Everything. Hazel leaned back in her chair and took a deep breath. I met William in 1995. I was working here at the library running the local history archives. He came in looking for old records about adoption agencies in the area, said he was researching a book. But he wasn't. No, he was searching for Emma like he always was. We became friends over the years. He would come in every few weeks and we would dig through records together. Birth certificates, court documents, newspaper archives, anything that might give him a lead. Clara opened the folder and spread the documents across the table. What about the mission logs, the redacted files? What was he really doing during those humanitarian flights? Hazel's expression darkened. William flew relief missions all over the world. Central America, Southeast Asia, Africa. He saved thousands of lives. But some of those missions weren't what they seemed. What do you mean? Golden Cradle Services wasn't just an adoption agency. It was part of a network. Children from war zones, from refugee camps, from destroyed villages. They were supposed to be evacuated to safety. Some of them were. But others disappeared into private adoptions with wealthy families who paid enormous sums. Clara felt sick. Are you saying Emma was trafficked? I'm saying the system that took her from William was corrupt, and William discovered that during his missions. He realized some of the children he was evacuating weren't going to foster homes. They were being sold. Did he report it? He tried. His superiors told him to keep his mouth shut. When he pushed harder, they grounded him, forced early retirement, threatened to destroy his reputation if he ever spoke publicly. Clara stared at the documents in front of her. So he spent the rest of his life trying to fix it, trying to find Emma and expose what happened. He spent the rest of his life searching alone. Most people thought he was crazy, an old man chasing ghosts. Hazel's voice cracked. But he wasn't crazy. He was the only one who cared enough to keep looking. Clara pulled out the law firm's letter. He found her. Right at the end, he found her. I know. He called me the day he received that letter. He was crying. After 50 years, he finally had an answer. Why didn't he go to her? Why didn't he at least write to her? Hazel was quiet for a long moment. Because someone threatened him. Clara's blood went cold. What? 2 weeks before he died, William received a phone call. He never told me who it was from, but after that call, he changed. He was afraid. He told me he had to protect Emma by staying away from her, that if he contacted her, he would put her in danger. Danger from who? I don't know, he wouldn't say, but whatever they told him, it worked. He died alone in that house knowing where his daughter was and unable to reach her. Clara pressed her hands flat against the table to stop them from shaking. So there are people out there who don't want Emma found, people who threatened a dying old man to keep him silent. Yes, and now you're the one holding his secrets. Clara thought about the anonymous texts, the warning to be careful who she trusted. You said in your text that my life might depend on this. Were you trying to scare me? I was trying to prepare you. Clara, you bought that house by accident. You stumbled into something much bigger than a sad story about a lost daughter. There are people who have spent decades keeping this buried. They won't be happy that you're digging it up. The baby kicked hard enough to make Clara wince. I can't just walk away, not after reading those letters, not after hearing his voice. I know, William would have said the same thing. Then help me. Help me find Emma before anyone else does. Hazel nodded slowly. There's someone you need to meet. Her name is Margaret Cole. She was married to William's co-pilot during the missions. Her husband died years ago, but she knows things. Things about what really happened on those flights. Where is she? Birmingham, Alabama. She's 82 years old and doesn't trust anyone, but she trusted William. Maybe she'll trust you. Clara gathered the documents back into the folder. How do I find her? Hazel pulled a piece of paper from her pocket, an address handwritten. I called her this morning, told her about you. She's expecting you. Clara took the paper. Her hands were steady now. Her fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Determination. Thank you, Hazel. Don't thank me yet. Finding Emma is the easy part. Keeping her safe is going to be much harder. Clara left the library at 3:30. She had 6 hours of daylight left and a decision to make. Her phone buzzed as she reached her car. A text from an unknown number, different from Hazel's. You're making a mistake, Clara. Walk away from this while you can. Her heart hammered. She typed back, who is this? No response. She stood in the parking lot, turning in a slow circle, scanning the cars, the sidewalk, the windows of nearby buildings. Was someone watching her right now? Her phone buzzed again. We know where you're staying. We know you're pregnant. We know you're alone. This is your only warning. Clara's hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. She got into her car and locked the doors. For a long moment she sat there paralyzed. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to drive back to the motel, pack her bags, and disappear, to forget about William Hartley and his daughter and his secrets. But then she thought about the letters, about a man who spent 50 years refusing to give up, about a daughter who had lived her entire life not knowing she was loved. Clara started the engine. She wasn't going back to the motel. She was going to Birmingham. The drive took 7 hours. Clara stopped once for gas and a bathroom break, eating vending machine crackers and drinking lukewarm water from a bottle she'd refilled at a rest stop. Her phone buzzed 3 more times during the drive. She didn't look at it. She couldn't afford to be scared. Not now. She arrived in Birmingham just after 11 at night. The address Hazel had given her led to a small house on a quiet street, lights still on behind drawn curtains. Clara parked and sat in the darkness, suddenly uncertain. What was she doing here? What would she even say before she could decide the front door opened? A small woman stepped onto the porch wrapped in a heavy cardigan, despite the mild night air. "Are you going to sit out there all night?" the woman called. "Or are you going to come inside and tell me why Hazel Thompson thinks I should help you?" Clara got out of the car on shaky legs. The woman watched her approach with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You're younger than I expected," the woman said, "and more pregnant." "Mrs. Cole, Margaret, nobody's called me Mrs. Cole since my husband's funeral." She held the door open. "Come in, I made coffee. You look like you need it." The house was small but immaculate. Every surface clean, every object in its place. Photographs lined the mantel, a man in an Air Force uniform, the same man, older, grayer, standing next to a woman who must have been a younger Margaret. "That's my Thomas," Margaret said, noticing Clara's gaze. "He flew with William for 12 years. They were brothers in everything but blood." Clara sat on the offered chair, accepting a cup of coffee she didn't really want. "Hazel said you might have information about William's missions, about what really happened." "Hazel talks too much." But Margaret's voice was fond, not angry. "What do you know already?" Clara told her everything. The letters, the tape, the law firm's address, the threats. Margaret listened without interrupting, her weathered face revealing nothing. When Clara finished, Margaret was quiet for a long time. "William never stopped loving that girl," she finally said. "Even when it would have been easier to move on. Even when everyone told him he was wasting his life. He believed she was out there somewhere waiting for him to find her." Did Thomas know about Emma? He knew everything. William trusted him with his life. Margaret stood and walked to a cabinet in the corner. She opened it and pulled out a thick manila envelope. "Thomas kept records too, things William didn't know about, things my husband found out on his own." She handed the envelope to Clara. "What is this kikwa evidence?" Proof that Golden Cradle Services was connected to something much bigger. A network of agencies across the country, all operating under different names, all funneling children into illegal adoptions. Clara opened the envelope. Inside were photographs, documents, names, and dates going back decades. Thomas gathered all of this after William was forced out. He wanted to help his friend, but he was afraid. He had a family. He had me. He couldn't risk everything the way William did. So he kept it hidden. He kept it safe. He always said someday someone would need it. Margaret's eyes glistened. He died believing he had failed William. But maybe he didn't. Maybe he was just waiting for you. Clara looked through the documents. One name kept appearing. A man connected to multiple agencies, multiple scandals, multiple cover-ups. Senator Richard Dawson. Clara's breath caught. "Dawson? Emma's last name is Dawson." Margaret nodded grimly. Richard Dawson was a congressman in 1968. He and his wife couldn't have children. They wanted a baby. A healthy white infant from a good family. They adopted Emma. They bought her. Paid Golden Cradle Services a fortune to expedite the process, forge the paperwork, and make sure the father never found out. Clara's mind raced. Richard Dawson, is he still alive? Died in 2015, heart attack, but his wife is still living, and so is Emma. Does Emma know? Does she know how she was adopted? I doubt it. The Dawsons raised her as their own. She grew up privileged, educated, protected. She probably believes she was wanted from the beginning. She was wanted, Clara said fiercely, just not by them. Margaret studied her with something like respect. You really are going to see this through, aren't you? William spent 50 years trying to reach his daughter. He died alone, threatened into silence by people who wanted to protect their secrets. I'm not going to let that be the end of his story. Margaret reached across and squeezed Clara's hand. Then take everything in that envelope, find Emma, tell her the truth. Even if it destroys everything she believes about her life. The truth is never easy, but it's always better than the lie. Margaret's voice hardened. And the people who did this, the people who stole children and sold them like property, they deserve to be exposed, even now, even after all these years. Clara stood clutching the envelope. Thank you, Margaret, for trusting me with this. Thank William. Thank Thomas. They believed someone would come. Margaret walked her to the door. Be careful, Clara. The people who sent those threats aren't bluffing. They've kept this secret for decades. They won't let a pregnant woman with nothing to lose tear it all down. Clara stepped onto the porch. That's exactly why they should be afraid. I have nothing left to lose except this. She drove through the night, too wired to sleep. The envelope sat on the passenger seat, its contents burning a hole in her mind. Senator Richard Dawson, a powerful man who had bought a baby and raised her as his own. A man connected to a network of corruption that had destroyed families for profit. And Emma, innocent Emma, living her whole life in a lie. At 3 a.m, Clara pulled into a rest stop to use the bathroom. When she came out, a man was standing next to her car. Her heart stopped. Clara Morrison. It wasn't a question. The man was tall, gray-haired, wearing an expensive coat that seemed out of place in a highway rest stop. Who are you, Tom? A friend or an enemy? That depends entirely on what you do next. Clara's hand went to her phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. I'll be gone before they arrive, but you'll miss the chance to hear what I have to say. Clara hesitated. Every instinct told her to run, but she needed information. She needed to understand what she was up against. Talk fast. The man smiled, cold and thin. You've stirred up something that should have stayed buried. William Hartley was a foolish old man who couldn't accept that some things are better left alone. He was a father looking for his daughter. He was a nuisance. For decades he made calls, filed lawsuits, wrote letters. We tolerated it because he never got close enough to matter, but you've changed things. How? You have Thomas Cole's evidence. You have William's documents. You're planning to contact Emma Dawson and tell her the truth about her adoption. Clara said nothing. If you do that, you will destroy a family. Emma Dawson is 56 years old. She has children, grandchildren, a life. She doesn't need to know that her father was a man she never met. She doesn't need to know that her parents paid for her like a commodity. That's not your decision to make. No, it's yours. The man stepped closer. I'm offering you a choice. Walk away now, and nothing happens. You keep the house, you have your baby, you live your life. Everyone wins. And if I don't walk away, the man's eyes went hard. Then you'll learn what happens to people who threaten powerful interests. You have nothing, Clara. No money, no family, no protection. You're 8 months pregnant and completely alone. How hard do you think it would be to make you disappear? Clara's hands trembled, but her voice stayed steady. Harder than you think. Is that courage or stupidity? Does it matter? The man studied her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. You've been warned. What happens next is on you. He walked away into the darkness. A moment later, Clara heard a car engine start somewhere in the lot. Headlights swept across her, then disappeared down the highway. She stood alone in the cold night, heart pounding the envelope clutched against her chest. They knew who she was. They knew what she had. They knew she was alone and vulnerable. And they had just threatened to kill her. Clara got in her car and locked the doors. For 5 minutes, she sat there shaking, unable to move. Then she pulled out her phone and called Hazel. Clara, it's 4 a.m. What happened? Someone found me at a rest stop. He knew everything. He threatened me. Are you safe? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Hazel's voice went calm and firm. Listen to me. Don't go back to the mansion tonight. There's a motel in Black Mountain 20 minutes outside Asheville. The Pinecone Inn. I know the owner. Tell her I sent you. She'll give you a room and won't ask questions. Hazel, these people are serious. They said they could make me disappear. I know they're serious. William knew it too. That's why he spent his last years in isolation, afraid to make a move. Hazel paused. But you're not William, Clara. You're not alone, and you're not going to let them win. Clara wiped her eyes. How can you be so sure? Because you called me instead of running. Because you're still holding that envelope instead of throwing it away. Because William believed someone would come who was strong enough to finish what he started. I think that person is you. Clara took a shaky breath. What do I do? Go to the motel. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we plan our next move. And Emma, what about finding Emma? We'll find her, but we need to be smart about it. We need to make sure that when you reach her, you're protected, that she's protected. Clara drove to Black Mountain as the sun began to rise. The Pinecone Inn was a small place, quiet and clean. The owner, a woman named Ruth, took one look at Clara's exhausted face and pregnant belly and asked no questions. Room 4, end of the hall. Nobody'll bother you there. Clara collapsed onto the bed without undressing. The baby shifted and kicked restless from the long night. "I know," Clara whispered. "I know. But we can't stop now. We're too close." She placed her hand on her belly and felt her child moving. "I'm going to find Emma," she said to the dark room. "I'm going to tell her the truth, and then I'm going to make sure the people who did this can never hurt anyone again." The baby kicked once more, then settled. Clara closed her eyes. Tomorrow everything would change. Clara woke at noon to her phone ringing. Her body ached from the restless sleep. The baby pressed hard against her ribs, making every breath shallow. "Hello?" "It's Hazel. Are you safe?" "I think so. I'm at the motel you mentioned." "Good. Stay there. I'm driving to you right now. We need to talk in person." "What happened?" "Someone broke into William's house last night. They tore apart the study. Whatever they were looking for, they didn't find it." Clara sat up fast, her heart slamming against her chest. "The documents! They were looking for the documents!" "And you have them, which means you're more valuable to them now than ever." Clara looked at the envelope on the nightstand. Thomas Cole's evidence, William's secrets, everything that could expose 50 years of corruption. "What do I do?" "Nothing until I get there. Lock your door. Don't answer it for anyone except me." The line went dead. Clara got up and checked the lock twice. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and spread the documents across the mattress. She had read through them twice during the night between fits of sleep. Names, dates, transactions. Children listed like inventory. Families who paid fortunes for babies they were told were orphans. And at the center of it all, Senator Richard Dawson. The man who had raised Emma. The man who had bought her. Clara pulled out her phone and searched his name. The results filled her screen. Political career spanning 30 years. Philanthropist. Champion of family values. He had died in 2015, celebrated as a great man. The lies went all the way to his grave. She scrolled deeper and found his wife, Victoria Dawson Nay Peterson, still alive at 84 years old, living in a retirement community in Scottsdale, Arizona. Did Victoria know? Did she know that the baby she raised had been stolen from a father who spent his whole life searching for her? Clara kept scrolling until she found what she was looking for. Emma Grace Dawson. Now, Emma Grace Whitfield. Married to a man named Robert Whitfield. Retired schoolteacher. Living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. There were photos. A woman in her mid-50s with gray-streaked hair and kind eyes, standing with a man who must be her husband, surrounded by children and grandchildren at what looked like a birthday party. Clara stared at Emma's face for a long time. "You look like him," she whispered. "You have his eyes." The baby kicked hard. A knock on the door made Clara jump. She grabbed the documents and shoved them under the mattress. "Who is it? What? Hazel, open up." Clara checked through the peephole. Hazel stood alone, looking around nervously. She opened the door. Hazel pushed inside and closed it behind her. "We don't have much time. They know you're in the area. Someone's been asking questions at the gas stations along the highway." "How do they keep finding me?" "Your car. It's registered in your name. They probably have someone running your plates every time you stop." Clara felt sick. "I can't afford another car." "I know. That's why we're switching." Hazel pressed a set of keys into her hand. "There's a blue Subaru parked behind the motel. It's registered to my nephew. No connection to you. Take it." "Hazel, I can't." "You can and you will. This is bigger than either of us now. William spent 50 years trying to expose these people. You're the closest anyone has ever gotten." Clara looked at the keys in her hand. "Why are you helping me? You could walk away from all of this. You don't owe William anything." Hazel's eyes softened. "I owed him everything. When my husband died, I wanted to give up. William was the one who kept showing up at my door. He brought me groceries, fixed my broken fence, sat with me on the worst nights. He never asked for anything except someone to listen to his stories about Emma." Her voice cracked. "He was the loneliest man I ever knew, and the most loving. He deserved to find his daughter. He deserved to hold her just once before he died." Clara reached out and squeezed Hazel's hand. "I'm going to make sure she knows, I promise." "I know you will." Hazel straightened. "Now, there's something else you need to see before you go to Santa Fe." "What?" "Victoria Dawson, Emma's adoptive mother. She's still alive." "I saw that. She's in Arizona." "She's not just in Arizona. She's dying. Stage 4 cancer. The doctors gave her weeks, maybe days." Clara's stomach dropped. "You think she knows something? I think she knows everything, and I think she's been carrying that guilt for 56 years. Hazel pulled a piece of paper from her pocket. Her address. The retirement community has visiting hours until 8. If you leave now, you can be there by tomorrow morning. Clara took the paper. Arizona is in the opposite direction from Santa Fe. I know, but Victoria might be the key to everything. If she's willing to talk, if she's willing to confess before she dies, you'll have more than documents. You'll have testimony. Clara thought about the man at the rest stop, his threats, his certainty that she would disappear if she didn't walk away. What if it's a trap? It might be, but I don't think so. Hazel's voice dropped. I called the retirement home this morning, pretended to be Victoria's niece. The nurse said Victoria has been asking to speak to someone. She keeps saying she needs to confess before it's too late. Clara felt the weight of it settle over her. A dying woman wanting to unburden her sins. A chance to get the truth directly from someone who had been there at the beginning. I'll go. Be careful. And Clara, yes? Call me the moment you leave there. If I don't hear from you in 24 hours, I'm calling the police. Clara nodded. She gathered the documents, tucked them into her bag, and followed Hazel to the back of the motel. The blue Subaru was older, but clean. Clara transferred her things from the Honda, then turned to say goodbye. Hazel surprised her by pulling her into a tight hug. Come back safe, both of you. Clara got in the car and drove west. The first 3 hours were uneventful. Clara kept checking her mirrors, watching for anyone following her. The highway stretched empty ahead. At 4 o'clock, she stopped at a gas station in Tennessee. While the tank filled, she went inside to use the bathroom. When she came out, a woman was standing by her car. Clara's heart stopped. The woman was about her age with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and tired eyes. She wore jeans and a wrinkled blazer like she had been driving for hours. Clara Morrison. Clara's hand went to her phone. Who's asking? My name is Rachel Torres. I'm a journalist with the Denver Post. I've been investigating Golden Cradle services for 3 years. Clara didn't move. How did you find me? I have a contact at the law firm that sent William Hartley the letter about Emma. When I heard someone had bought his property, I started digging. Rachel stepped closer. I know what you have. I know about Thomas Cole's evidence, and I know people are trying to stop you. How do I know you're not one of them? Rachel reached into her pocket and pulled out a press badge. She handed it to Clara. Call the Denver Post. Ask for the investigations desk. They'll confirm I'm who I say I am. Clara studied the badge. It looked real, but so had Derek's promises. Why should I trust you? Because I want the same thing you do. I want to expose the network that stole children for profit. I want to destroy the people who covered it up. Rachel's voice hardened. And because I have information you need. What information? Victoria Dawson isn't just dying. She's being watched. The retirement home has private security that reports directly to a man named Harold Price. He was Senator Dawson's chief of staff for 20 years. Clara's blood went cold. They're protecting her. They're containing her, making sure she doesn't talk to anyone before she dies. Rachel leaned against the car. You won't get past the front desk without help, but I have a contact inside, a nurse who's been feeding me information for months. Why would you help me? What's in it for you? The story of a lifetime. A United States senator who bought a stolen child, a network of corruption that operated for decades. If we do this right, it won't just be about Emma. It'll expose every family who paid for a baby they were told was an orphan. Clara thought about it. She was alone, pregnant, hunted. Rachel was offering resources, contacts, a way past the barriers she couldn't breach on her own. But trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Not after Derek, not after her mother, not after everyone who had ever let her down. Give me your phone number, Clara said finally. I'll call you after I decide. Rachel handed her a card. Don't wait too long. Victoria's condition is deteriorating fast. If she dies before you talk to her, everything she knows dies with her. She walked to a rental car parked across the lot and drove away. Clara stood alone, disgusted with the card in her hand, the weight of another impossible choice pressing down on her. She got in the Subaru and kept driving. At 9 o'clock, she stopped at a motel in Oklahoma. The room was cheap and the bed was hard, but she was too exhausted to care. She called Hazel. I'm okay. Made it to Oklahoma. Good. Any problems? A journalist found me. Rachel Torres from the Denver Post. Said she's been investigating Golden Cradle for years. Hazel was quiet for a moment. I've heard of her. She's legitimate. Won some awards for investigative work. Can I trust her? I don't know, but if she has contacts inside Victoria's retirement home that could be useful. Clara stared at the ceiling. Everything feels like a trap. Every door I open could be the one that destroys me. That's how William felt for 50 years, but he kept opening doors anyway. And he died alone without ever reaching his daughter. He died trying. That's more than most people ever do. Hazel's voice softened. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be harder. Clara hung up and lay in the dark, her hand on her belly. The baby was quiet now, resting. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered into the silence. But even as she said it, she knew she couldn't stop. William's voice was in her head now. His letters were burned into her heart. A man who never gave up, even when giving up would have been easier. She closed her eyes and dreamed of planes falling from the sky. At 7 the next morning, Clara crossed into Arizona. The landscape changed green, giving way to brown hills flattening into desert. Her phone rang. Unknown number, she answered. Clara, it's Rachel. Are you close? A few hours out. Good. I talked to my contact at the retirement home. Victoria had a bad night. The doctors don't think she'll last more than a few days. If you want to talk to her, it has to be today. Clara gripped the steering wheel tighter. I'll be there by noon. I'll meet you in the parking lot. Don't go in without me. The line went dead. Clara pushed the Subaru faster, watching the speedometer climb. Every mile felt like a countdown. She arrived at Sunset Gardens Retirement Community at 11:45. The facility was large and well-maintained, the kind of place that cost more per month than Clara had ever earned in a year. Rachel was waiting in the parking lot as promised. You made good time. I didn't have a choice. Clara got out of the car, stretching her aching back. How do we get in? My contact is a nurse named Maria. She's going to sign us in as family visitors. Victoria's real family doesn't come anymore. Her daughter visits maybe once a year. Emma? No, Victoria has a biological daughter from a previous marriage. Emma was the replacement, the perfect baby to fix a broken family. Clara felt a surge of anger so strong it nearly choked her. Let's go. They walked through the front entrance. The lobby was bright and cheerful, filled with flowers and soft music. A receptionist smiled at them. Can I help you? We're here to see Victoria Dawson, Rachel said smoothly. We're her nieces from Denver. The receptionist checked her computer. I don't have you on the visitor list. Maria Rodriguez should have added us this morning. There was some confusion with the system. The receptionist frowned and typed something. A moment later, her expression cleared. Oh yes, here you are, room 412, 4th floor end of the hall. Thank you. They walked to the elevator in silence. Clara's heart pounded with every step. The 4th floor was quieter. Fewer staff, fewer visitors. The air smelled like disinfectant and something sweeter, sadder. Room 412 had a small sign on the door. Victoria Dawson. Private. Rachel knocked softly. Come in? The voice was thin and weak. Clara pushed open the door. Victoria Dawson lay in a hospital bed surrounded by machines and monitors. She was small and frail, her white hair spread across the pillow like a halo. Her eyes, though, were sharp, alert. They fixed on Clara immediately. You're not my niece. No. Clara stepped closer. My name is Clara Morrison. I need to talk to you about Emma. Victoria's face changed. Something cracked behind her eyes. Emma, she whispers. After all these years, someone finally came about Emma. Rachel closed the door behind them. Mrs. Dawson, we don't have much time. The security here reports to people who don't want us talking to you. Harold Price. Victoria almost smiled. That weasel has been watching me for months, making sure I don't say anything embarrassing before I die. Clara moved to the chair beside the bed. Then say it now. Tell me the truth about Emma. Victoria closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them, tears had begun to fall. We couldn't have children. Richard and I tried for years. Doctors' treatments, everything. Nothing worked. Richard was devastated. He wanted a legacy, an heir, someone to carry on his name. So you bought one. Victoria flinched. It wasn't supposed to be like that. Golden Cradle told us the babies were orphans, children whose parents had died or abandoned them. They said we were saving them. But you knew the truth. Not at first, but eventually, yes. Victoria's voice broke. There was a man. He came to our house when Emma was 3 years old. He was crying, begging us to let him see his daughter. He said she had been stolen from him, that he had been searching for years. Clara's heart stopped. William Hartley? I didn't know his name then. Richard had him removed, threatened to have him arrested if he ever came back. Victoria's tears fell faster. But I saw his face. I saw the way he looked at Emma through the window, like she was everything he had ever lost. And you did nothing. I was afraid. Richard was powerful, connected. He told me if I ever spoke about what happened, he would destroy me, take Emma away, make sure I never saw her again. Clara felt rage building in her chest. So you let that man spend 50 years searching for his daughter while you raised her as your own. I loved her. Victoria's voice was a sob now. I know that doesn't make it right. I know I was part of something terrible, but I loved Emma. She was my daughter in every way that mattered. She was never your daughter. She was stolen. Victoria reached out with a trembling hand. That's why I need to tell her. Before I die, I need Emma to know the truth. Clara stood up. Where is she? How do I find her? Santa Fe. She lives in Santa Fe with her husband. I have the address. I've always had it. Victoria pointed to a drawer in the nightstand. There's a letter. I wrote it months ago. Everything I know, everything I'm sorry for. Please give it to her. Clara opened the drawer and found the envelope. Emma was written on the front in shaky handwriting. Why didn't you send it yourself? I was afraid. Even now, even dying, I'm still afraid. Victoria gripped Clara's hand with surprising strength. But you're not. I can see it. You're not afraid of anything. I'm afraid of everything, Clara said quietly, but I'm not going to let that stop me. She tucked the letter into her bag. Victoria sank back against the pillows. There's something else you should know, something I've never told anyone. What? Richard kept records. Everything about Golden Cradle, about the payments, about the children. He was a politician. He documented everything in case he ever needed leverage. Clara leaned closer. Where are these records? A safety deposit box at First National Bank in Denver. The key is hidden in his study at our old house, behind the portrait of his father. Rachel stepped forward. Mrs. Dawson, if those records exist, they could expose everyone involved. Politicians, judges, wealthy families. This could be the biggest scandal in decades. Victoria laughed weakly. Good. Let it burn. Let them all burn. Her eyes found Clara's. I've been carrying this guilt for 56 years. It's the heaviest thing I've ever held. Please, end it. A knock on the door made them all freeze. Mrs. Dawson? A man's voice. Security check. Rachel grabbed Clara's arm. We need to go, now. Clara looked at Victoria one last time. Thank you. Save her. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. Save Emma. Tell her I'm sorry. Clara and Rachel slipped out through a side door just as security entered Victoria's room. They moved fast down a back stairway, hearts pounding, footsteps echoing. They made it to the parking lot without being stopped. That was too close, Rachel gasped. It doesn't matter. We got what we came for. Clara pulled out her phone and searched for directions to Santa Fe. 6 hours. She could be there by nightfall. What about the safety deposit box, Rachel asked. The records in Denver. Later. Right now I need to find Emma. Rachel nodded. I'll head to Denver. Start working on getting access to that box. She handed Clara a burner phone. Use this. Your regular phone might be compromised. I'll call you when I have something. Clara took the phone. Rachel, why are you really doing that? Rachel was quiet for a moment. My grandmother was adopted through Golden Cradle in 1959. She died never knowing who her real parents were. I've spent 3 years trying to find the truth for her. Her voice hardened. This isn't just a story to me. It's personal. Clara understood. More than Rachel could know. They parted ways in the parking lot. Clara drove east toward New Mexico, Victoria's letter burning a hole in her bag. The sun was setting when she crossed into New Mexico. The sky turned orange, then purple, then deep blue. Her phone rang. The burner. Clara, it's Hazel. Rachel gave me this number. Are you okay? I'm fine. I'm almost to Santa Fe. Good. Listen, there's something you should know. Victoria Dawson died about an hour ago. Clara nearly swerved off the road. What? Heart failure. They're saying it was natural causes, but I don't believe that for a second. Clara's hands shook on the wheel. They killed her. Probably, which means they're desperate. Whatever she told you scared them. She told me everything about Richard's records, about the safety deposit box, about what really happened. Then you need to be careful. If they killed Victoria to keep her quiet, they won't hesitate to do the same to you. Clara thought about the baby inside her, the life she was carrying, the future she was risking. I'm not stopping. Not now. Not when I'm this close. I know. Just please be careful. Clara hung up and kept driving. At 9 o'clock, she reached the outskirts of Santa Fe. She pulled into a gas station and checked Victoria's letter for the address. 127 Pinon Trail, Emma Grace Whitfield. She typed it into her phone. 10 minutes away. Clara sat in the car staring at the screen. 10 minutes from the daughter William Hartley had spent 50 years searching for. 10 minutes from the end of a journey that had started with a $10 auction bid. The baby kicked hard. I know, Clara whispered. I'm scared too. She started the engine and drove. The house at 127 Pinon Trail was modest and well kept. A garden grew along the front walk. Wind chimes hung on the porch, singing softly in the evening breeze. Clara parked across the street and sat in the darkness, watching. Through the front window, she could see movement. A woman passing by with a cup in her hand. Gray hair. Gentle movements. Emma. Clara's throat tightened. This woman had no idea what was coming. No idea that her entire life was built on a lie. No idea that somewhere in North Carolina a man had died, with her name on his lips. She got out of the car. Her legs felt weak as she crossed the street. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her temples. She climbed the porch steps, raised her hand to knock. The door opened before she could. Emma stood there, cup of tea in hand, looking at Clara with curiosity and concern. Can I help you? Clara opened her mouth to speak, and then her water broke. Clara grabbed the doorframe as pain shot through her body. Warm fluid soaked through her pants and pooled on Emma's porch. Oh my God! Emma dropped her teacup. It shattered on the floor. Are you okay? What's happening? The baby? Clara gasped. It's coming! Emma didn't hesitate. She grabbed Clara's arm and pulled her inside. Robert, call 911. Now! A man appeared from the hallway, gray-haired and startled. What's going on? Just call. This woman is having a baby. Clara collapsed onto the couch as another contraction ripped through her. She screamed. The pain was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Breathe. Emma knelt beside her, taking her hand. Look at me. Breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Clara tried to focus on Emma's face. William's eyes. She had William's eyes. Gray like rain, gray like the sky over the mountains. The ambulance is on its way, Robert said, phone still pressed to his ear. They said 15 minutes. I don't have 15 minutes. Clara gripped Emma's hand so hard her knuckles went white. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Something's wrong. Emma turned to Robert. Get towels, hot water, everything we have. Emma, I don't know how to... Neither do I, but we're going to figure it out. Robert disappeared. Emma stayed on her knees beside Clara, stroking her hair. What's your name, honey? Clara Morrison. Clara, I'm Emma. You're going to be okay. I was a school teacher for 30 years. I've handled emergencies before. Clara laughed through the pain. It came out as a sob. This isn't a classroom emergency. No, it's bigger, but we're going to get through it together. Another contraction hit. Clara screamed again, her back arching off the couch. They're too close together, Emma said. Robert, where are those towels? Robert came running back with an armful of linens. His face was pale. The dispatcher said to keep her calm and wait for the paramedics. She can't wait. This baby is coming now. Clara felt pressure building. Intense, unbearable pressure. Her body was taking over, pushing without her permission. I need to push, she gasped. I can't stop it. Emma positioned herself at the end of the couch. Then push. I've got you. The next 8 minutes were a blur of pain and screaming, and Emma's steady voice guiding her through each contraction. Robert held Clara's hand while Emma coached her to push, to breathe, to push again. I see the head. Emma's voice cracked with emotion. One more push, Clara. One more big push. Clara bore down with everything she had left. The world went white with agony, and then she heard it. A cry. Tiny, fierce, unmistakable. It's a girl! Emma's voice broke into sobs. Clara, you have a beautiful baby girl. Clara reached for her daughter with trembling arms. Emma placed the squirming, crying infant on Clara's chest, wrapped in a towel still warm from the dryer. She's perfect, Clara whispered. She's perfect. The baby's cries softened as she felt her mother's heartbeat. Clara pressed her lips to the tiny forehead tears streaming down her face. You did it! Emma squeezed Clara's shoulder. You amazing woman! You did it! The ambulance arrived 7 minutes later. The paramedics checked Clara and the baby cut the cord properly and declared both mother and daughter healthy, despite the unconventional delivery. You're lucky, the lead paramedic told Clara. Births like this can go wrong fast. Good thing you had help. Clara looked at Emma, who stood in the corner of the living room, her blouse stained with blood and fluid, her hands still shaking. Yeah, Clara said softly. I was lucky. They transported Clara and the baby to St. Vincent Regional Medical Center. Emma insisted on following in her own car. Robert stayed behind to clean up the chaos. At midnight, Clara lay in a hospital bed with her daughter asleep in her arms. The room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. A knock on the door. Emma peeked in. Can I come in? Please? Emma sat in the chair beside the bed, looking exhausted but alert. How are you feeling? Sore, tired, terrified. Clara looked down at her daughter's face, but also happy, happier than I've ever been. She's beautiful. Have you thought of a name? Clara had been thinking about it since the moment she heard that first cry. Hope. Her name is Hope. Emma smiled. That's perfect. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Emma leaned forward. Clara, I need to ask you something. Clara's heart rate spiked. She had been dreading this conversation and waiting for it. Why were you on my doorstep tonight? You're not from Santa Fe. You drove here. You came to my house specifically. Clara took a deep breath. I came to tell you something. Something about your father. Emma's expression flickered. My father died 10 years ago. Richard Dawson wasn't your father. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Emma went very still. What did you say? Clara reached for her bag on the nightstand. Her hands were shaking as she pulled out the bundle of letters. Your real father's name was William Hartley. He was an Air Force pilot. He spent 50 years searching for you. Emma stared at the letters. That's impossible. I was adopted as an infant. My parents told me my birth mother was a teenager who couldn't care for me. They lied. Your mother was a woman named Sarah, who signed adoption papers without your father's knowledge while he was deployed in Vietnam. By the time he came home, you were gone. No. Emma stood up, backing away from the bed. No, that's not true. He never stopped looking for you, Emma. He wrote you letters every year. He flew missions around the world, always searching, always hoping he would find you. Clara held out the bundle. These are for you. He wrote them to you. Every birthday, every Christmas, every year, he didn't give up. Emma's hands trembled as she took the letters. She stared at them like they might explode. How do you know any of this? Who are you? Clara told her everything. The $10 auction, the mansion in the mountains, the study filled with maps and journals, the tape recorder with William's final message. I was broke and pregnant and abandoned by everyone I loved, Clara said. I bought that house because it was the only thing I could afford, but I found something there. I found your father's story, and I couldn't let it end without reaching you. Emma sank back into the chair, the letters clutched against her chest. This can't be real. My parents loved me. They gave me everything. They bought you. Victoria Dawson confessed everything to me yesterday. Emma's head snapped up. Victoria is dead. She died 6 months ago. Clara's blood ran cold. What? My mother died in June. Heart failure. That's not possible. I talked to her yesterday, in person, at Sunset Gardens in Arizona. Emma shook her head slowly. Victoria never lived in Arizona. She was in a nursing home in Denver until she died. Clara's mind raced. If Victoria was dead in June, then who had she talked to yesterday? Who had given her the letter in her bag? She pulled out the envelope Victoria had given her. Emma was written on the front in shaky handwriting. Someone gave me this. Someone claiming to be Victoria Dawson. Emma took the envelope and opened it with trembling fingers. She read the first few lines, and her face went white. This isn't Victoria's handwriting. I've received hundreds of letters from my mother over the years. This isn't how she wrote. Clara felt the floor dropping out from under her. Then who wrote it? Emma kept reading. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. What does it say? It's a warning. It says that someone is going to try to stop you from reaching me. It says there are people who have been watching William's house for years, waiting for someone to find his documents. Emma looked up. It says the only person I can trust is the woman who shows up pregnant with my father's letters. Clara's heart pounded. Someone set this whole thing up. Someone wanted me to reach you. But who and why? A knock on the door made them both jump. A nurse entered with a clipboard. Sorry to interrupt. There's a woman in the lobby asking to see you, Mrs. Morrison. She says her name is Hazel Thompson. Clara exhaled. She's a friend. Can you send her in? The nurse nodded and left. Emma was still staring at the letter. It's signed with initials, MC. Clara's breath caught. Margaret Cole. Thomas Cole's widow. Who? Your father's co-pilot's wife. She gave me documents about Golden Cradle services. She's been gathering evidence for years. Before Clara could explain more, Hazel rushed into the room. Thank God you're okay. I drove through the night when you didn't call. She stopped when she saw Emma. Is that her? Clara nodded. Hazel, Emma. Emma, this is Hazel Thompson. She was your father's friend. Emma stood slowly, her legs unsteady. You knew my father? Hazel's eyes filled with tears. I knew him for 25 years. He was the kindest, saddest man I ever met. He talked about you every single day. Emma's composure cracked. A sob escaped her throat. I didn't know any of this. Hazel crossed the room and pulled Emma into a tight embrace. I know, sweetheart, I know, but you know now. That's what matters. Clara watched them, her own tears falling. Hope stirred in her arms, making soft sounds of protest at the commotion. There's something else you need to hear, Clara said when Hazel released Emma. Your father left a tape recording, his final message. He made it for whoever found his house, but I think he really made it for you. Emma wiped her eyes. I want to hear it. I need to hear his voice. Clara reached for her bag again, but it was empty. The tape recorder wasn't there. It's gone. Someone must have taken it. Hazel shook her head. No, I have it. I took it from the house after you left for safekeeping, in case something happened to you. She pulled the small recorder from her purse and set it on the bedside table. Are you sure you're ready for this? Hazel asked Emma. Emma nodded, though her whole body was trembling. Please, play it. Hazel pressed the button. Static crackled. Then William Hartley's voice filled the room. If you're hearing this, it means I never found her. Emma made a sound like she had been punched. Her hand flew to her mouth. My name is Captain William Hartley, United States Air Force. I flew 143 humanitarian missions between 1971 and 1992. People called me a hero. I wasn't a hero. I was a father looking for his daughter. Emma sank into the chair, tears streaming down her face. Emma Grace Hartley, born March 14, 1968. 6 weeks later, while I was deployed in Vietnam, your mother Sarah signed adoption papers. I didn't know. I didn't consent. I came home to an empty apartment and a note that said, it's better this way. William's voice cracked on the recording. I spent the next 50 years trying to find you. Every mission, every flight, every country I landed in, I was searching, always searching, for you. Hazel was crying now too. Clara held Hope against her chest, her own tears falling onto the baby's blanket. Last month I received a letter from a law firm in Denver. They found a match. Emma Grace Dawson, born March 14, 1968, currently living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I know where you are. After 50 years, I know. Emma let out a sob. And I can't go to you. I'm dying. What right do I have to show up now to tell a 50-year-old woman that her dying father finally found her? Would that bring you peace or pain? I don't know anymore. William paused on the recording. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. Tell Emma something for me. Tell her that her father loved her from the moment he knew she existed. Tell her that she was never forgotten. Tell her that if love could cross time and distance and death itself, mine would find her. It would always find her. The recording ended. Emma sat motionless, tears running down her face in silent rivers. He loved me, she whispered. He never stopped loving me. Clara reached out and took Emma's hand. He would have moved mountains to reach you. He just ran out of time. Emma squeezed back. But you didn't. You came. You found me. He asked someone to finish what he couldn't. I was just the one who heard him. Emma looked at Clara, then at Hope, then back at Clara. You gave birth on my doorstep. You risked everything to bring me a message from a father I never knew. Her voice steadied. What can I do? How can I help you? Clara thought about the threats. The man at the rest stop, Victoria's death, the people who had been watching and waiting for decades. This isn't over. There are people who want these secrets buried. They killed Victoria Dawson to keep her quiet. They'll do the same to us if we don't expose them first. Then we expose them. Clara stared at Emma. You don't even know the whole story yet. Then tell me everything. For the next hour, Clara told Emma about Golden Cradle services, about the network of corruption that had stolen children and sold them to wealthy families, about Senator Richard Dawson and his role in the cover-up, about Thomas Cole's evidence and Margaret Cole's decades of secret investigation. Emma listened without interrupting. When Clara finished, Emma's face was hard with determination. My adoptive father was a monster. He was powerful, he had connections, he made sure no one ever questioned where you came from. And my mother, Victoria, Clara hesitated. She was complicit. But I think she was also a victim. Richard controlled everything. She lived in fear of him for their entire marriage. Emma stood and walked to the window. The first light of dawn was spreading across the sky. I spent my whole life grateful to them. I thought they rescued me from a terrible situation. I thought I was lucky. Clara said nothing. There was nothing she could say. But the real luck was having a father who never gave up, who searched for me until his last breath. Emma turned around. I want to see his house, the place where he lived, the place where he wrote all those letters. It's yours, Clara said. He left it behind for whoever found his story, but really he left it for you. Emma's eyes widened. What? Come back to North Carolina with me. See where your father lived. Read all of his letters. Understand who he was. I can't just leave. I have a life here. My husband, my children. Bring them. Bring everyone. Your father spent 50 years alone. His house deserves to be full of family. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Let me talk to Robert. We'll figure out the logistics. After Emma left, Hazel sat down beside Clara's bed. You did it, Hazel said. You actually did it. Clara looked down at Hope, who was sleeping peacefully in her arms. I didn't do anything. I just followed the trail he left behind. You did more than that. You gave her closure. You gave her truth. Hazel smiled through her tears. William would be so proud of you. Clara's phone buzzed. The burner Rachel had given her. She answered. Clara, it's Rachel. I'm in Denver. I got access to the safety deposit box. Clara's heart raced. What did you find? Everything. Names, dates, financial records. Proof that Golden Cradle Services was funded by a network of wealthy families who paid millions for children. Senators, CEOs, judges. They're all here. How many families? 47. 47 children stolen and sold over a 20-year period. Emma was one of them. Clara's stomach turned. What do we do with it? I'm taking it to my editor tomorrow. This story is going to blow the lid off everything. But Clara, you need to be careful. Once this goes public, you're going to be a target. I'm already a target. Then make sure you have protection. These people will do anything to keep this buried. Clara hung up. Hazel was watching her with concern. What is it? Rachel found the records. 47 children. This is bigger than we ever imagined. Hazel's face went pale. 47 families with secrets to protect. That's 47 reasons for them to come after us. Clara looked at Hope, her daughter, her miracle, the child she had almost given up on. I'm not running anymore. I'm not hiding. They've had 50 years to bury this. It ends now. 2 days later, Clara was discharged from the hospital. Emma and Robert drove her and Hope to the airport where they boarded a flight to Asheville. The flight was tense. Emma clutched William's letters in her lap, reading them over and over, tears falling silently. He wrote to me on my 40th birthday, Emma said at one point. He wondered if I had gray hair yet, if I had children, if I was happy. She looked at Clara. I was happy, but I wasn't complete. I never knew why until now. Clara reached over and squeezed her hand. You're complete now. You know who you are. I know who I was supposed to be. Emma Grace Hartley, not Dawson, Hartley. They landed in Asheville at 6 in the evening. Hazel met them at the airport with 2 cars, one for Clara and Hope, one for Emma and Robert. The drive up the mountain was silent. Clara watched Emma in the rearview mirror, her face pressed against the window, taking in the forest, the winding road, the narrowing path that led to her father's home. When the house emerged from the trees, Emma let out a sound halfway between a gasp and a sob. He lived here. He lived here all alone. They parked and got out. The November air was crisp and clean. The house looked different to Clara now. Less broken. More hopeful. Emma walked to the plane first. The Cessna still sitting in the overgrown yard where it had rested for decades. She touched the faded wing with trembling fingers. He flew this looking for me. He flew it everywhere, Hazel said softly. Africa, South America, Southeast Asia. He believed you might be anywhere, so he went everywhere. Emma walked around the plane slowly, taking in every detail. Then she turned and walked toward the house. Clara followed with Hope in her arms. Hazel and Robert came behind. The front door opened with the same creak Clara remembered, the same dusty smell, the same feeling of time suspended. But this time someone was home. Emma moved through the rooms like a woman walking through a dream. She touched the sheet-covered furniture. She stopped at the dining table still set for guests who never came. "He was waiting for me," she whispered. "He set this table for me." They reached the study. Emma stood in the doorway, unable to move. Clara gently guided her inside. The books, the maps, the photograph of William in his uniform. Emma walked to the photograph and lifted it from the wall. She held it against her chest like a child holding a stuffed animal. "I look like him. Everyone always said I looked like my father, but I didn't. Not Richard. I never looked like Richard." She turned the frame over and stared at her own reflection in the glass. "I look like him. I look like my real father." Clara set Hope in the old leather chair surrounding her with cushions, then moved to the desk. "There's more you need to see." She opened the drawer and pulled out the final items William had left behind. The flight logs, the maps with red circles, the journal entries documenting every lead, every dead end, every heartbreak. Emma read through them for hours. Robert sat with her holding her hand, when she cried saying nothing, because there was nothing to say. At midnight, Clara put Hope down in the master bedroom, the room where William had slept his final nights. She stood at the window, looking out at the plain and the mountains beyond. Her phone buzzed. "Rachel, the story goes live tomorrow morning. Front page of the Denver Post. Then it goes national." Clara's heart pounded. What happens next? Investigations, subpoenas, probably arrests. The families named in those documents are going to be scrambling to protect themselves. And us? You need to be visible, give interviews, make sure the world knows your face and your story. The more public you are, the harder it is for them to make you disappear. Clara hung up and turned to find Emma standing in the doorway. "It's really happening, isn't it? After 50 years, it's finally going to end." Clara nodded. "Are you ready?" Emma looked at the photograph of William she was still holding. "My father spent his whole life fighting for the truth. I think it's time I did the same." The next morning, the story broke. Rachel Torres's article was picked up by every major news outlet within hours. The headline read, "Senator's adopted daughter was stolen inside the 50-year conspiracy to hide the truth." Clara's phone rang constantly. Interview request questions. From reporters' demands for comments. She let Hazel handle most of it while she focused on Hope. Emma gave her first interview to the Today Show via satellite. She sat in William's study surrounded by his books and his letters and told the world who her real father was. "He never stopped loving me," Emma said, her voice steady despite her tears. "He never stopped searching. And now, because of a stranger who bought his house for $10, I finally know the truth." The interviewer asked about Clara. "She's not a stranger anymore," Emma said. "She's family. She gave birth to her daughter on my doorstep. She brought me my father's voice. She finished what he couldn't." Emma looked directly into the camera. "Clara Morrison is the bravest person I have ever met." By noon, the story had gone global. Politicians were being questioned. Wealthy families were lawyering up. Golden Cradle Services survivors were coming forward with their own stories. And at William Hartley's house in the Blue Ridge Mountains, Clara sat on the porch with Hope in her arms, watching the world finally pay attention. Emma came out and sat beside her. "Rachel called. The FBI is opening an investigation. They want to talk to both of us." Clara nodded. "I figured they would. Are you scared?" Clara thought about everything she had been through. Derek's betrayal, her mother's rejection, the threats and the danger, and the long, desperate road to this moment. "No," she said. "I'm not scared anymore." Emma reached over and touched Hope's tiny hand. The baby wrapped her fingers around Emma's thumb. "What are you going to do now?" Emma asked. "After all of this is over." Clara looked at the house, at the plain, at the mountains stretching into the distance. "I'm going to stay. This is my home now, mine and Hope's." Emma smiled. "It's my home too, my father's home." Clara took her hand. "Then stay with me. Help me fix it up. Help me turn it into something he would have been proud of." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'd like that. I'd like that very much." They sat together in silence, two women brought together by a dead man's love, watching the sun set over the mountains. Inside the house, William's letters rested on the desk where they had waited for 50 years. And somewhere, somehow, Clara believed he was finally at peace. 3 weeks after the story broke, the first arrest was made. Harold Price, Senator Richard Dawson's former chief of staff, was taken into federal custody on charges of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering. The news showed him being led out of his mansion in handcuffs, his face twisted with fury. Clara watched the footage on the small television in William's kitchen while Hope slept in a bassinet beside her. One down, Emma said, sitting across the table with a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. How many more to go? Rachel says the FBI has identified 32 individuals directly connected to Golden Cradle services. Politicians, judges, businessmen. They're building cases against all of them. Emma shook her head slowly. 32 people who knew. 32 people who helped steal children and said nothing for 50 years. 47 families who paid for those children, Clara added. Some of them are cooperating with investigators, trying to cut deals. What about the children, the ones like me? Rachel is working on that. She's created a database of everyone who was adopted through Golden Cradle. So far, she's identified 23 survivors. 11 of them have already come forward wanting to find their birth families. Emma's eyes filled with tears. My father searched for me his whole life. These families might finally be reunited because of what he started. Clara reached across the table and took her hand. Because of what you finished. You went on national television. You told the truth. You gave the other survivors courage to come forward. We finished it together. The front door opened. Hazel came in carrying grocery bags and a stack of mail. More interview requests from, she said, dropping the mail on the counter. NBC wants you both for a primetime special. CNN is offering an exclusive, and Oprah's people called again. Clara laughed. Oprah's people. 2 months ago, I was living in a motel with $47. 2 months ago, you didn't know who William Hartley was, Emma said. Now the whole world knows his story. Clara looked at the photograph of William that now hung in the kitchen. She had moved it from the study so she could see him every day. His eyes seemed to follow her, warm and grateful. He would have hated all this attention, Hazel said. He was the most private man I ever knew. But he would have loved seeing Emma here, Clara replied. He would have loved knowing his daughter finally came home. That afternoon, Clara was feeding Hope when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Clara Morrison, a woman's voice, professional and cold. Who is this? My name is Patricia Dawson. Victoria was my mother. Richard was my stepfather. Clara's grip tightened on the phone. What do you want? To talk, in person. I have information you need. Why should I trust you? Because I'm the one who sent you to Arizona. I'm the one who wrote that letter and pretended to be Victoria. Clara's heart stopped. That was you. Victoria died in June, but I knew she had secrets. I found her private journals after the funeral. Everything about Emma, about Golden Cradle, about what Richard did. I spent months trying to figure out what to do with it. So you created a trap. I created an opportunity. I knew someone would eventually buy William's house. I had people watching it for years. When you showed up, I knew you were different. You weren't a developer or a treasure hunter. You were someone who needed that house as much as it needed you. Clara's mind raced. You could have just contacted me directly. I couldn't risk it. Harold Price had people watching me too. If he knew I had Victoria's journals, I would have ended up like the others. What others? Patricia was quiet for a moment. 3 people who tried to expose Golden Cradle over the years. All of them died in accidents. Car crashes, falls, a house fire. Harold made sure anyone who got too close disappeared. Clara felt cold spread through her chest. And now? Now Harold is in federal custody. His network is collapsing. It's safe for me to come forward. Patricia paused. I want to meet Emma. I want to apologize for what my family did to hers. Clara looked across the room where Emma was reading more of William's letters. That's not my decision to make. It's hers. I understand. Just tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I've been carrying this guilt my whole life, watching her at family gatherings, knowing the truth and saying nothing. Clara hung up and walked over to Emma. That was Patricia Dawson, Victoria's daughter. Emma looked up sharply. What did she want? Clara told her everything. About the fake Victoria, about the journals, about Patricia's years of secret guilt. Emma listened without expression. When Clara finished, Emma was quiet for a long time. She wants to apologize, Emma finally said. Yes. Does she think that fixes anything? Does she think sorry erases 50 years of lies? Clara sat down beside her. I don't know what she thinks, but I know what it's like to carry guilt. I know what it's like to wish you had done something differently. Emma's jaw tightened. This isn't the same as your situation. No, it's not. But Patricia was a child when Richard bought you. She didn't have a choice in what her parents did. She had a choice later. She had decades to tell the truth. She was afraid. Harold Price was watching her. People who tried to expose Golden Cradle died. Emma stood up and walked to the window. I don't know if I can forgive her. I don't know if I want to. Clara joined her at the window. You don't have to decide anything right now, but maybe someday hearing what she has to say might help you heal. Shh. Emma turned to look at her. How did you get so wise? Clara smiled sadly. I'm not wise. I'm just tired of holding on to anger. It doesn't hurt the people who wronged you. It only hurts you. 4 days later, Derek showed up. Clara was on the porch with Hope when a rental car pulled up the driveway. She recognized him immediately. The same walk, the same entitled posture, the same face she had once loved and now couldn't stand to look at. What are you doing here? Her voice came out harder than she expected. Derek stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. He looked different. Thinner, older. The confidence that had always bordered on arrogance was gone. I saw you on the news. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the national hero. I'm not your wife. I haven't been your wife since you walked out. Clara, please, just hear me out. Hope started to fuss. Clara held her closer, using the baby as a shield. You have 2 minutes. Derek ran a hand through his hair. Rachel left me. A week after I moved in with her. She said I was too needy, too dependent. She called me a loser. Clara felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just emptiness. That's what you came here to tell me, that your mistress dumped you. No, I came to apologize. I came to ask for another chance. Clara stared at him. You hit me. You took all our money. You left me pregnant and alone with nothing. I know I did terrible things, but I've changed. I've been in therapy. I'm working on myself. Good for you. That doesn't have anything to do with me. Derek stepped closer. Clara, please. We had 8 years together. That has to mean something. It meant everything to me, and you threw it away like garbage. Clara stood up, her voice rising. Do you have any idea what I went through? I slept in my car. I ate food from gas stations. I gave birth on a stranger's doorstep because I had nowhere else to go. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it, Derek. Sorry doesn't erase what you did. The front door opened. Emma stepped out onto the porch. Is there a problem here? Derek looked at her with confusion. Who are you? I'm Emma, Clara's family. Clara doesn't have family. Her mother disowned her. Emma moved to stand beside Clara. She has family now, and you're not part of it. Derek's face reddened. This is between me and my wife. She's not your wife. She's a mother, a survivor, and a hero. She's everything you were too weak to see. Emma crossed her arms. You need to leave. You can't tell me what to do. This is my father's house. Emma interrupted, which means Clara is my guest, and you're trespassing. Leave now, or I call the police. Derek looked between the two women. Something in their united stance broke through his desperation. Fine, fine. He backed toward his car. But this isn't over, Clara. We have things to discuss. Legal things. Then have your lawyer contact mine. You don't have a lawyer, Clara smiled. I do now. Her name is Rachel Torres. She's a journalist who also happens to have a law degree, and she's very interested in what happens to men who abandon their pregnant wives after cleaning out their bank accounts. Derek's face went pale. That's not fair. Neither was leaving me with nothing, but here I am anyway. Clara held Hope closer. Goodbye, Derek. Don't come back. He got in his car and drove away without another word. Emma put her arm around Clara's shoulders. Are you okay? Clara watched the rental car disappear down the mountain road. I thought seeing him again would hurt. I thought I would feel angry or sad or something. And I felt nothing. He doesn't matter anymore. He's just a man I used to know. Emma squeezed her shoulder. That's called healing. 2 weeks later, Clara stood in William's study, now transformed into an op. She had spent days organizing his documents, cataloging his letters, creating a comprehensive record of his 50-year search. Rachel had helped her digitize everything. The letters, the maps, the flight logs, all of it was now preserved and backed up in multiple locations. We should write a book, Rachel said during one of their video calls. William's story deserves to be told properly, not just news articles, a full account of what he did and why. I'm not a writer. You don't have to be. I'll help you. We'll do it together. Clara looked at the photograph of William on the wall. He would have hated being the center of attention. He would have loved knowing his story helped other families find each other. That's what this book would do. It would show people that giving up is never the answer. Clara thought about it. A book? William's book. A permanent record of a father's love that never died. Let me talk to Emma. It's her father's story. She should have a say. Emma's response was immediate. Do it. Write the book. Tell the world who he really was. So Clara began to write. She started with the day she bought the house. $10 and a desperate prayer. She wrote about finding the study, the letters, the tape recorder. She wrote about driving across the country pregnant and terrified. She wrote about giving birth on Emma's doorstep and the moment she heard Hope's first cry. And she wrote about William, his missions, his searches, his refusal to give up even when the world told him his daughter was lost forever. The writing came easier than she expected. The words flowed like they had been waiting inside her all along. At night, Emma would read what Clara had written and add her own memories. The childhood she thought she had. The truth she finally learned. The father she never knew, but somehow always felt connected to. I used to have dreams about a man with gray eyes, Emma said one evening. He would be standing far away watching me. I could never reach him no matter how fast I ran. Clara looked up from her laptop. You dreamed about William? I didn't know who he was. I thought it was just a recurring nightmare. Emma's voice cracked. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was him, trying to reach me, even in my sleep. Spring arrived in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The trees budded green. The air warmed. Hope grew stronger every day, her eyes bright and curious, her tiny hands reaching for everything. Clara had been in William's house for 5 months. It no longer felt haunted or abandoned. It felt like home. The renovation work had begun in March. Emma and Robert hired a contractor to fix the roof, replace the broken windows, restore the porch. They kept the original character of the house while making it livable again. My father built this place with his own hands, Emma explained. He bought the land when he came back from Vietnam. He wanted somewhere quiet, somewhere to heal. Clara watched the workers replacing old boards and installing new fixtures. It's beautiful. It always was underneath all the damage. Just like people, Emma said softly. Beautiful underneath the damage. The Cessna was a different project. Emma found a restoration expert who specialized in vintage aircraft. He examined the plane and declared it salvageable. It'll never fly again, he told them. Too much structural damage, but we can restore her for display, make her look like she did in her glory days. Emma paid for the restoration herself. My father loved this plane. It carried him around the world looking for me. The least I can do is give it back its dignity. By April, the house was finished. The plane restoration was underway, and Clara's book was taking shape. Rachel came to visit, spending a week helping Clara organize the final chapters. This is going to change lives, Rachel said, reading through the manuscript. Families are still looking for children who were stolen decades ago. Your book will give them hope. William's book, Clara corrected. I'm just the one telling it. You're more than that. You're the reason any of this happened. Without you, William's secrets would still be buried in that study. Emma would still believe her adopted parents were her only family. 47 children would still be lost. Clara looked at Hope, who was sleeping in her bassinet nearby. I didn't do it alone. Hazel helped. Margaret helped. You helped. Even Patricia Dawson helped in her own twisted way. Speaking of Patricia, she's agreed to testify at Harold Price's trial. She's turning over all of Victoria's journals. Clara's heart lifted. That's huge. It's going to put him away for life. Him and at least a dozen others. That evening, Emma called a family meeting. Robert was there, and along with Emma's 2 grown children who had driven up from Santa Fe and Hazel, who had become a permanent fixture in their lives. I want to do something, Emma announced. Something to honor my father's memory. Everyone waited. I want to turn this house into a foundation, a place where families can come to search for lost loved ones. We'll provide resources, support connections. We'll help people find each other the way Clara helped me find my father. Clara's eyes widened. Emma, it's what he would have wanted. He spent 50 years searching alone. No one should have to do that. Robert put his arm around his wife. It's a big undertaking, but I'm in. Emma's daughter spoke up. Me too. Grandpa never got to meet us, but we can carry on his work. Hazel was crying. William would be so proud, so incredibly proud. They spent the rest of the night planning. The William Hartley Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to reuniting families separated by adoption, fraud, trafficking, and other circumstances. They would work with law enforcement advocacy groups and media to bring attention to cold cases. Clara would be the executive director. Emma would be the board chair. Rachel would handle media relations and investigations. What about the book? Clara asked. Finish it, Emma said. All the proceeds go to the foundation. Let my father's story fund the work he started." In May, Clara received a phone call she never expected. Her mother. "Clara." The voice was smaller than she remembered, uncertain. "I saw you on television." Clara gripped the phone so hard her knuckles went white. "What do you want?" I wanted to say, "I'm proud of you." Clara laughed bitterly. "Proud you abandoned me when I had nothing. You told me I made my bed and had to lie in it." I know what I said. I've regretted it every day since." "Then why didn't you call? It's been 7 months." Silence stretched across the line. "I was ashamed," her mother finally said. "I saw what you accomplished. I saw the woman you became without my help, and I was ashamed of what I did." Clara felt tears burning her eyes. She had spent months building walls against this moment, convincing herself she didn't need her mother's approval. "You hurt me," Clara said. "You hurt me worse than Derek ever did." "I know." A mother is supposed to be there, no matter what, no matter how badly her daughter messes up. "I know. I needed you. I needed you so much." "I know, baby, I know." Her mother was crying now. "I can't take back what I did, but I want to make it right, if you'll let me." Clara looked at Hope, who was watching her with those bright, curious eyes. Her daughter, the child she had almost lost everything to protect. "I have a daughter now. Her name is Hope." "I know. I've seen pictures. She's beautiful. She's going to know her grandmother. No matter what happened between us, she deserves that." Her mother sobbed. Thank you, Clara. But this doesn't fix everything. You don't get to just apologize and have it be okay. I understand. We're going to have to rebuild. Slowly. It's going to take time. I'll wait. However long it takes, I'll wait. Clara hung up and sat in silence for a long time. Then she picked up Hope and held her close. "Mama made a hard choice," she whispered. "But it was the right one, because you're never going to feel abandoned. Not ever." The summer brought more changes. Clara finished the manuscript and sent it to publishers. 3 of them bid for the rights. The advance was more money than Clara had ever seen. She used it to officially establish the William Hartley Foundation. They hired staff, set up a website, started taking cases. The first family they reunited was a woman in her 60s who had been searching for her birth mother for 40 years. They found her within 3 weeks. The reunion was filmed and aired on Good Morning America. "How does it feel?" the interviewer asked the woman after she had embraced her mother for the first time. "Like coming home," the woman said through tears. "Like I was lost my whole life and finally found my way back." Clara watched from the audience, Hope in her arms, and felt William's presence beside her. In August, the house hosted its first official event. Families from across the country came to meet to share stories to support each other in their searches. Emma gave the opening speech. "My father spent 50 years looking for me. He flew around the world, wrote hundreds of letters, and never gave up hope. He died believing he had failed. But he didn't fail. He left behind everything we needed to find each other. He left behind a roadmap of love." She looked at Clara. "And he left behind a house that found its way to a woman who needed it as much as it needed her. Clara Morrison walked through that door, broke pregnant and alone. She walked out a mother, a friend, and a sister." Clara stood and joined Emma at the podium. "I bought this house for $10, Clara said. "It was the last money I had. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know about William or Emma or any of this." She looked out at the audience, at the faces of people still searching for their lost families. "But I learned something in these rooms, something William taught me through his letters and his tapes. Love doesn't give up. Love doesn't accept no for an answer. Love keeps searching even when everyone else has stopped." She held up Hope, who giggled and reached for the microphone. "This is my daughter Hope. She was born because I refused to give up, because even when I had nothing, I had something worth fighting for." Pshum. Clara looked at Emma, then at Hazel, then back at the audience. "If you're searching for someone, don't stop. If you're carrying a secret that needs to be told, tell it. If you're holding on to anger that's eating you alive, let it go. Life is too short to waste on regret." She took a deep breath. William Hartley never found his daughter, but his daughter found him. And that's the real miracle. Love finds a way, always. The applause was thunderous. That night, after the guests had gone and the house was quiet, Clara walked out to the Cessna. The restoration was complete now. The plane gleamed under the stars, its silver paint catching the moonlight. She touched the wing the way Emma had that first day. "Thank you," she whispered to William. "Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for leaving breadcrumbs for me to follow. Thank you for leading me to your daughter." The wind stirred the trees. Clara felt something brush against her face, soft, gentle, like a hand reaching across the years. She knows now. Emma knows you loved her. She knows you searched for her every day of your life. She knows she was never forgotten. Tears rolled down her cheeks. And I know something too. I know that broken people can be mended. I know that lost people can be found. I know that houses can become homes, and strangers can become family. She stepped back and looked at the plane one last time. "Rest now, Captain Hartley. Your mission is complete." 6 months later, Clara sat in William's study writing the final pages of her book. Hope was walking now, toddling around the room with Emma chasing after her. "Come here, you little escape artist." Emma laughed, scooping Hope into her arms. Clara smiled at them, her heart full. The house was alive now, full of voices and footsteps and laughter, full of the family William had always wanted. Her phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. "The book releases next week. Publisher says pre-orders are through the roof. Get ready to be famous," Clara typed back. "I'm already everything I need to be." She looked around the study, at William's books still lining the shelves, at his photograph watching over them, at the pile of letters that had started everything. Then she looked at Emma holding Hope, at the two of them laughing together like grandmother and granddaughter, like family. "Hey," Clara called, "come here, I want to show you something." Emma carried Hope over and sat beside Clara at the desk. "I finished the last chapter," Clara said. "Do you want to read it?" Emma shifted Hope to her other hip and looked at the screen. Clara watched her face as she read. The tears that formed. The smile that broke through. When Emma finished, she looked at Clara with shining eyes. "It's perfect. He would have loved it." "It's not mine. It's his. It was always his." Emma shook her head. "No, it's ours now. All of ours." Hope reached for the keyboard and accidentally typed a string of random letters. Clara laughed and kissed her daughter's head. "Even you're contributing a little one." They sat together in comfortable silence, 3 generations of an unexpected family in a house that had waited 50 years for them to arrive. Clara thought about everything she had lost. Derek, her savings, her relationship with her mother, though that was slowly healing, her certainty about who she was and what her life would become. But she thought more about what she had gained. A daughter, a sister, a purpose, a home. William Hartley had spent 50 years searching for love. He had flown around the world, written thousands of words, and died. Died believing he had failed. But he hadn't failed. His love had reached across time and found exactly who it was meant to find. Not just Emma, Clara too, and Hope, and everyone who would read his story and find hope in their own searches. The sun set over the Blue Ridge Mountains. Golden light poured through the study windows, illuminating the room where a lonely pilot had once sat writing letters to a daughter he would never meet. But he had met her, in his own way, through the words he left behind, through the house he built, through the stranger who walked through his door and refused to let his story end in silence. Clara closed her laptop and pulled Emma and Hope into a tight embrace. "Thank you," Emma whispered. "For what?" "For finding me. For bringing me home." Clara held them closer. "I didn't find you," she said. "Your father did. I just followed the trail he left." Outside, the restored Cessna gleamed in the fading light. A monument to a man who never stopped believing. A testament to the power of love that refuses to surrender. Clara Morrison had bought a haunted mansion for $10. What she found inside was worth more than all the money in the world. She found family. She found purpose. She found proof that even the most broken stories can have beautiful endings. And that was the greatest gift of all.